guys ask me one of my questions on Ask Dave this week was, what did, these guys take back in Arnold's era? And, what I explained to people, and I don't think they really understand, Greg, is that if you knew a doctor back then, like you guys knew Dr. Mike, and there was Ludwig in the city,
right?
Everyone had a prescription, and you would go to the local pharmacy and you would fill your Deca, testosterone, D-ball prescription, and the drugs were real. So guys didn't use a lot, but they were using real drugs. I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution. Welcome back to another episode of Iron Rage. I was taken by surprise. And the surprise is that Lee Priest didn't show up yet. So I don't know if he's still sleeping, and daylight savings over there kind of screwed him up. But the show must go on. And it's going on strong today because I got my good friend, Gregg Valentino, here. What's up, Greg?
What's going on, Dave? You know why Lee's sleeping? He's jealous. He got one of them sound machines after being at my house. You understand? He put a TV on static, and now he's sleeping like a baby.
He can't wake up. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Him and Jimmy were laughing. Jimmy laid down on my bed, and we put on the sound machine, and he started falling asleep, So I'm telling you, they laugh at me. We got, two on my side, one on my girlfriend's side, plus I got that TV on static, and everybody laughs at it. But tell you what, you don't hear – a bomb could go off, and you won't hear shit. You'll sleep like a baby. I need noise.
I can't sleep in absolute silence either. I don't know how people do it. Matter of fact, sometimes when I'm in a hotel room, I'm like, I'm going to go crazy. It's too quiet in here. And I start obsessing on every little sound coming from everywhere. And I like to have like a fan blowing, or what I do in my bedrooms in my house is I put it in all my kids' rooms too. It's like an air filter, but it's not a silent one. It's one that makes that blowing sound like, and I put it on high. So it's not as loud as your sound machine, but it's actually blowing air. And because it's blowing air, Chris Aceto calling, it's because it's blowing air. Speaking
of falling asleep, Chris Aceto, I'm sorry. I'll tell you what, just watch the show with Chris Aceto, you'll fall asleep. I like Chris.
Not that, I know you do. But you know what? Chris, by the way, is 2 miles from where that shooting occurred in Maine.
Oh, shit, really?
Yeah, and that guy's still on the loose, I think.
I know that. I saw that.
That guy is supposedly a gun range instructor or something.
And an ex-Army guy that he learned all that shit in the Army. I think that guy planned this out. He's probably underground. He's got a bunker.
Do you think like someone put him up to it, like someone paid him, like a George Soros type of thing, is it a conspiracy thing, or you think the guy's just a nut?
I don't think so. I think he's a lunatic. He was in a nut house for a while.
That. And a lot of people won't admit this, but I believe this, and you can tell me if you agree with me. They closed all the mental hospitals. John would be better to talk about this. If hopefully he's got some guy repairing something outside his house. He has no internet, but he'll be on it. But they closed all the mental hospitals. I forget what year it was. Pilgrim State. They let everyone out. Creedmoor, and there's a lot of lunatics who should be in mental hospitals who are not now. And that's a lot of your homeless people, okay?
Jail.
The people in jail. And these people don't belong in jail. They don't belong sleeping on the street, and they certainly don't belong, running around with guns, And so there's a lot of violence and there's a lot of things that are going on because of that. And, no one wants to see someone in a mental hospital, but there are some people that legitimately should be there, at least in my opinion.
But you know what, Dave, also, not for nothing. Excuse me. COVID. No, a lot people today with the fucking video games and all that shit, like, what was that? The one where you got to kill Grand Theft Auto, shoot at cops, and do all this stuff.
You know what, Greg? You and I have played those games, and we're not out shooting people. Okay,
no,
so
I agree.
These people are nuts. Okay, anyone who goes into like a populated place with a gun and starts shooting people, okay, is out of their mind. I know Lee Priest jokes about doing that, but he would never really do it.
No, Lee would never do it. But you know what? He had my musket. He was walking around the house with our musket. But
Lee likes the idea of it, the fantasy in his head. But
by the way, if Lee's watching this is the little, like, with the wheels. People are actually like, is that a real gerbil? No, it's a little fake mouse. And Lee, every time my back was turned to him in my bedroom, he was trying to stick it up my ass.
No. You know that you ever see those little hamsters they had for a while? It was like a little novelty gift. They were little they looked like that. It was a little hamster. It would make noises. It would kind of run around and it's much cuter than that little rat you have by the way.
This would fake out one of your snakes though.
Yeah, probably.
Larry, look at that, like the eyes and shit.
Yeah, no, it looks real.
It looks like a real rat. But anyway, getting back to when I went to, I didn't mean to change the subject real fast. What killed Matt Duval? Every time I see your commercial, I think of him. And,
no one really knows. There's been rumors, and I've talked to his brother. I think that he had some kind of underlying health problem. I don't. I've heard drugs mentioned, and but you know what? Sometimes when you have an underlying health problem, and then maybe you do some drugs, or maybe you were doing something you shouldn't have been doing, taking too many stimulants or something like that, you could have a heart attack and die from that. So I don't think that he was excessively doing anything, but I think that maybe it was something that was there already that maybe he didn't know about, compounded with what he was doing. And I think he just, from what I understand, he dropped in a bathroom. I think. I don't think.
I heard that too. I brought my son to. He was young, like 8 or 9, and I brought him to Strong and Shapely. And I had just started taking steroids, and I was starting to get really big. You know what I mean? Right. And Matt Duval was there, and he was talking with me. And Matt's he was jacked. Yeah. And my son goes, Dad, he's got bigger arms than you.
He had big arms. Matt
cannons.
I met Matt through Jason Arntz because Jason Arntz and I were really tight.
I know Jason.
In the 90s, and Jason was living with Matt. And Matt had really just kind of got on the bodybuilding scene at the time. And then, Matt and I kind of hit it off. And so we'd all like hang out and talk and bullshit. And Matt was living in Jersey. He was living almost on the Jersey Shore. And I don't know how we decided to do this. We decided to make a training video together because he was kind of creative and I was creative. I said, I want to make a training video, but I want to make it like a quasi movie, even if it's a little cheesy.
I saw that you guys were outside your house or something, right? Weren't you outside?
If you watch the training video, it's called Reconstruction of a Bodybuilder. A lot of its parts is online. There was training aspects of it, and there was instructional, but then there was also like an underlying movie that kind of connected it all together.
I saw that.
And Matt would drive up from the Jersey Shore, and you know how far that is.
Yes, I do.
2.5 hours each way, and we filmed for days and days. I mean, it took us like a couple months to film that thing.
Wow.
And so I mean, it was pretty fun. We had a lot of laughs, and the outtakes were hysterical. And
between you and him, though, that was a lot of beef. Let me tell you. I
miss Matt. I really did.
These young guys today that don't know, they only know like Chris Bumstead and shit like that. That's all they know. They don't realize, like, I knew you back then. I remember seeing you. You were so fucking big. I mean, my God, they don't realize it. You were a mass monster. You were one of the original. I mean, you were 300 pounds when nobody was 300 pounds. Today you got guys my height, 300 pounds. But you're right. There was no one like back then who did. Let me see. I'll pull up a little screenshot of the video. Hold on. I love that video. Weren't you guys chasing a car? You were running outside or something. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. That's the scene. Because what the whole premise was, we were like we were Terminators sent back in time.
Right.
The Terminator. And there was a guy in the gym who was like they were trying to terminate because he was important to. He was going to be a congressman who was going to repeal the Steroid Control Act or something like that. So they wanted to kill him so that the steroids would still be illegal. And we had to go back and save this guy. That was the whole wacky premise. And I got all my crazy friends. Matter of fact, let me see if this clip plays.
I actually saw this.
See if you know who's in this scene. Hold on, let me play it. You'll know people in the scene. See if you can name these people. Let's see. Do you know who those people are right there?
That's you and him.
No, that's not Matt.
Oh, wait a minute. No, that's not DeRezzo, is it?
No, who's the guy in the middle? You know him.
I can't. Wait a minute. I can't see.
Hold on.
Wait, that wasn't you and Matt? Was that Anthony DeRezzo? No.
No. I don't know if I have the right thing on the screen.
Yeah, because I can't see.
You know, I have the wrong thing on the screen.
Because it was you and Matt. There's only two guys.
Oh, hold on.
That's Matt Duval and you.
Yeah, that's me and Matt. Hold on.
Okay, so I knew that. I knew I wasn't going crazy.
I didn't have the right one on there. Hold on. Here. Who's that in the middle?
That's wait, I know that. That's wait, I can't spit it out. I know the other guy too with the fucking long hair. Yeah. Wait, that's wait, hold on. Oh fuck. I can't spit that out.
It's Fran Volpe.
Fran Volpe, right? Yeah, right. That's why I couldn't spit. You know why?
Why?
He look. I couldn't spit his fucking name. Of course, I know Fran Volpe for forever.
No, I know you do.
Yeah, Fran Volpe. Yes, but my God, I haven't seen him. He looks so different from the way he looks. You know, with the shaved head or the mohawk or whatever. You know.
Right. That's Frank.
I used to hang out with him.
And you know Frank Wilhelm, right?
Oh yeah, Frank. Yeah, Frank. Yeah, who doesn't know Frank?
Yeah, that's Frank on the right.
Yeah, Frank's a great guy.
And the other guy, Mike, was an actor actually. He's a good guy. I think he's still around. But
Frank is a great guy. He's a character. Volpe's a bad dude. Volpe was a lot bigger than that too at one time.
Oh yeah. He had gotten smaller here. And,
he went to a phase. He was a good guy. I know Fran. I used to see him all the time. We used to go to strip club and shit. Yeah. But Wilhelm was a big dude. He had some wheels on him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, very big. Frank and I were best friends for many years. You know.
Oh, those two guys were peas in a pod. Fran Volpe and Wilhelm. Wilhelm used to tell me all the time, Dave Palumbo has this growth factor that can actually make you dick like. And I used to say, get out of here. There's no way. There's a growth. And I used to swear to me.
I told you that before, right? Perfect too. You know exactly how he sounds.
Yeah, Franny was down there. We were in Florida. But he was.
That's a perfect invitation of him too.
He used to give me tokens. Because we used to go to the batting cage.
Time USA you worked at, right?
Yeah. We used to. You know that? You've been there? We used to go. I went
to medical school right around the corner from this.
That's right. I went to a police academy there. The police academy is right there. People don't know about that, but
I lived in Elmsford, for 2 years.
I know. You used to. The hospital almost killed me. Grasslands. Yeah, right.
Yeah. That's where I went to school.
Yeah, Westchester Medical Center.
That's where I met Frank. In Sport Time USA.
I love Frank.
Getting into bodybuilding.
He's a personality. He's fucking great. Oh, yeah. I love him. He was a great guy. He used to give me and my kids, because I bring my kids there to some batting cages and my daughter be over there.
That place was really good. That place.
It was great, man. He would give you bags of tokens and shit.
Yeah. You know what the funny thing is? Him and I went to I don't know if you know this. We went to Barcelona together, and
I didn't know
to buy steroids. Yeah, to buy steroids. Remember, in 1990, they made steroids illegal. So you couldn't get it. It was hard to get stuff originally, I
remember all that.
Yeah. And so him and I said, we're going to go to Barcelona. We'll just buy it right there in the pharmacies. And we were there for like 2 weeks. We bought so much stuff. We were mailing it back to ourselves. Some of the packages made it, some of it didn't. But we were paying like $2, like for not even. I think it was like $1.50 an amp for testosterone or something like that. It was crazy how cheap.
I used to get shit real cheap. I used to get the vials of Steris testosterone for like $8, 10 cc's.
Well, that once that came around, that was a little later in the 90s. I think we were all buying it, indirectly from you, probably.
Yeah, so. Me and my partner Paul and another guy. Yeah. But it's crazy because I used to hear back then that Arnold is the reason why steroids became illegal because he didn't want Lee Haney to break his record. Do you think any of that's true?
Biden is the one who made him illegal, believe it or not.
I know that. But I think that Arnold lobbied those guys. I don't know. That's what they used to say. I'm not saying it's true.
I don't believe it.
They used to say it because Arnold was, back then Arnold Bush Senior made Arnold like the Council of Fitness and all this shit.
President's Council.
You remember that?
Yeah,
and Arnold be out there with all like little Down syndrome kids and shit. And
Haney was on that council too for a little bit. Haney
I don't know. That's all bullshit. I mean, I believe it's bullshit.
You know, I interviewed Lee Haney the other day, and I forgot to ask him about eating at your house and staying at your house. I completely blocked it out and forgot.
No, he was so mad at the pictures right there. I put the pictures on Instagram of him there. I don't think he blocked it out. He probably just whatever, you know.
No, I'm saying I forgot to ask him about it. So
you forgot to ask him.
Yeah, I wanted to ask him about it because I'm sure he would have had a funny story, and I blocked it out. I said, but,
because he was messaging me when Bob Bonham died and everything. He was messaging me, Lee.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. Lee Haney's a great guy. He was I love the way he is with his wife and kids. He met his wife. Yeah. His wife's the reason why he was a pro bodybuilder. You know, he was playing football. He hurt his knees and everything, and she entered him into a bodybuilding contest.
Oh, I didn't know that. He didn't tell me that. He did tell me that. He said the reason he started working out was for the women. I said, yeah, but didn't you meet your wife like right after you started working out?
He met her in kindergarten, supposedly. But they were like in kindergarten. They grew up next to each other. But he was telling me, because he was natural and he won a Teenage American. You had like Lenny Serrero. You had this guy, Andy Lopadotti, who's a monster. Okay.
I know. Yeah, I remember him.
You remember Andy?
Yeah.
I was talking with him for a while. Let me tell you something. Lee Haney, there's people who thought Andy could have won. And Lee said to me, I looked at that guy and I was like, man, how does he look like that? Because he was big, ripped. He looked like a man amongst kids. You know what I mean? He was a teenager too. And Lee knew right then and there, I guess I'm going to have to do the little babanya there. Somebody told him, like, if you want to compete again on that level. But Lee beat him. Lee didn't think he was going to beat him.
Oh, I think I found a picture of Andy Lopadotti.
I gave Lee the fucking magazine with that.
Hold on. Is this Andy? This is Andy Lopadotti, right? Hold on. I'm going to pull him up.
Yeah, he was a monster. As a teenager. Let's see, where is it? Yeah. Dude, that's a teenager. And he was ripped.
Wow. He looks like he's 40 years old in that picture.
That's what I'm saying. But wait a minute. He was ripped on the show. He was a Mahalik monster. And he's got great Mahalik stories, by the way.
Oh,
great
really?
Mahalik stories.
I got to get him on the show. Hold on.
You got to get him on. Dude, he was so big. Andy Lopadotti was so big. Yeah. Guys, you're looking at a teenager in 1979.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Listen, you got all these drugs today, kids taking Tren and all that stuff. That guy, I'm not saying he wasn't on drugs, but I'm saying that was just, the old D-ball test and DECA shit. You know what I mean? Right. Look what that guy looks like at a teenager.
You know what? I want to make a statement about what these guys took back, because a lot of people ask me about that, and I want to get your opinion. But first, I got to show people my Bobby Muscles Tren-O-Ween shirt. Everyone loves it.
I love that.
So if you like Tren, this is Tren-O-Ween, and it's Michael Myers and who's on there? Who's the other one on there? Jason.
I can't see. You're asking a blind man.
Jason Voorhees. So
Jason Voorhees. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, things are falling down. I got things.
That's the
I might be haunted. I think Jason's back here.
You're
so
haunted.
I want to thank Bobby Muscles for the shirt. If you want, go to the BobbyMuscles.com and you can buy all his Trend shirts. I'm going to have him send you one, because
that sounds like George's brother, Bobby Muscles.
Bobby Muscles,
Bobby Smalley, you know what I mean? George Smalley, Mr. G's brother.
All right, but what I wanted to bring up to you was the fact that guys asked me one of my questions on Ask Dave this week was, what did these guys take back in Arnold's era? And what I explained to people, and I don't think they really understand, Greg, is that if you knew a doctor back then, like you guys knew Dr. Mike, and there was Ludwig in the city,
right?
Everyone had a prescription. And you would go to the local pharmacy and you would fill your DECA, testosterone, D-ball prescription, and the drugs were real. So guys didn't use a lot, but they were using real drugs. And I really think that there's something to that. American-made pharmaceuticals were very high potency, good quality stuff, and guys grew on it. And they obviously grew really well on much lower doses than guys are using today. And I think it's because of the quality of the drugs. What's your opinion?
I agree with you 100%. That's why, when I was selling Asteris and guys people were growing on Asteris shit, it was legit steroids.
They were huge.
Right, everybody got huge. But the thing is, Leon Brown used to talk about that all the time. God bless his soul. Leon was a good friend of mine. We'd go out to dinner. He'd call Arnold. He had Arnold's cell phone number. Arnold loved him. And
I took the Arnold cell phone out of
Leon's. Yeah, I think you told me that. You said, "Give me that phone." You took his Arnold cell phone.
I did. I really did. Yeah.
But Leon used to tell me, I know that Arnold was big with Primobolan too. Like he would take that, and I know Belasteron was around. Those were other drugs, but
yeah,
the test, the Deca, the D-ball by Seba. You remember Seba?
Yeah. They were the ones who made it first.
That was the one who made all D-ball.
Dr. Ziegler, right? Wasn't he the guy who invented it?
I think so. Yeah, there's Leon right there, guys. Leon's the guy that in Pumping Iron, when you first open up the book, Pumping Iron, there's a black dude. There's 3 pictures of this black dude with this most incredible musculature to his back. It was Leon.
I wonder why they put Leon, featured him so much in that book. It's kind of weird because he wasn't in the movie at all.
He wasn't in Pumping Iron, but he was in Stay Hungry. And you know what? You know why? Because he had just beaten Franco Columbu in the Mr. World show. Right. And Franco, Arnold used to break Franco's balls because Leon would be training. You know what I'm saying? And they'd be training together. It was Leon. Leon told me he trained with Arnold and Franco. They were training partners for like 10 months. And after he beat Franco, right? Yeah. He said Franco wouldn't talk to him. Said we'd be training, and Arnold would say, put the 10s on or whatever. Yeah. And Leon would do it. Franco would just stand there, like look off. He was so upset, and he said because Arnold would break his balls. He'd say, "Mr. World, put the 10s on." Not you, Franco. No. I'm talking to Mr. World. And then he would break Frank. Like Leon was always late, so Leon would come to the gym, and they had just started, and Arnold would say to Franco, "Look who's here, Mr. World. Remember, he beat you in the show. Leon, come on over." And Leon, and if you know Leon, Dave, Leon. So Leon was a very shy, kind of go-with-it guy, happy-go-lucky. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So he would be like, Franco, Arnold, and Franco wouldn't talk to him. Would not talk to him because Leon beat him in Mr. World.
Leon was a genetic freak, is really what it was. And
God.
He trained hard in the gym, but he would go out. He would drink a lot of alcohol by his own. He'd hang out with all the girls. He'd stay up all night, and then Arnold would knock on his door at like 6 in the morning to go to the gym, and Leon had been asleep for 2 hours probably. And Leon would go to the gym, and he would be reeking of alcohol still. And and Franco's looking at this guy who's half-assing it and beating him. And I think that's what the problem was. But Franco obviously got much better than Leon at some point.
Oh yeah, but Leon had genetic wise. I mean, Leon could have killed him. Let me tell you something. Leon Brown is like a national treasure in the sport of bodybuilding. People don't know this, but he had the best stories. Arnold is the one who got him in Stay Hungry, called him up, said, "Get your ass down here. We need some bodybuilders," and all this stuff. I forget. It was filmed in some southern, like Mississippi, Missouri, one of them places. And he was telling me all kinds of, the best stories about Arnold with the steroids. And then we go, he had this nurse that was in love with him at a clinic, and she would give him everything. You know what I'm saying? He'd bring all his boys down.
For some reason in California, you could go to these like clinics. Like they would be like, remember back in the day, they would have like, I think they would call them like VD clinics, like guys like venereal diseases.
Yes.
And they go to the free clinic and they get like an antibiotic shot, like a penicillin shot, and they go home. Well, these clinics, for some reason, stocked steroids. They stocked Nubane, because a lot of guys would go to those clinics and they told me they would get Nubane from there. They would just give it to them. They would be like, "Oh, my shoulder's hurting," and they'd be like, "Oh, I'll give you a Nubane prescription," and they give you the Nubane. I don't know what that was all about, but it was very easy, supposedly, to get, and especially if you schmoozed the people there, they loved people.
Because steroids weren't the evil that people didn't know. People looked at them like vitamin. What are those vitamins that make guys big? And I'm like, those are anabolic steroids. But Leon would tell me the best Arnold stories. He had the greatest Arnold stories, and and Franco was very moody and stuff. But he would tell me that Arnold would drive literally 100 miles an hour around the mountain up there and in a Volkswagen Bug. And Leon would be like, he was praying, you know what I mean? And Franco would go faster, And they got great. I mean, he just has great Arnold stories, even like aside from, bodybuilding. Do you know that I went to pick Leon up for dinner, right? We were going out to dinner one night and he was training like in Staten Island. And he was like 64 at the time.
Oh, wow.
And I went to I had to go to the gym to get him. He goes to pick me up at the gym. So I go to the gym. I forgot what gym it was. He was training at in Staten Island. And let me tell you something. He goes, look at my chest. And I looked at his chest. He goes, what do you think? It's pumped, right? And I say, yeah. He goes, I just did it 4 days in a row. And I'm like, this is a guy, 64 years old, training. He would train like his chest for 4 days. He'd pick a body part and do it every day of the week. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
He actually loved bodybuilding. I mean, I hope when he passed that they put barbells and dumbbells in his coffin, because that fucking guy, he started out lifting like coffee cans with cement in them, and the whole, the sewer caps, and he, when he was young, I mean, he just adored bodybuilding. He was just a national treasure, and he had the best Arnold stories, all the time. Arnold would call hamburger meat steak. So he'd say Arnold would eat steak and eggs. He loved pancakes, was his like weakness and all that. But it just, the inside shit that he would tell you. I mean, my God,
Leon was actually inducted into the Staten Island Sports Hall of Fame.
Yes.
And I know Arnold sent like a video message, congratulating him on that. And I think that was Leon's like biggest, he was very proud of that, that they acknowledged who he was and that he was a Staten Island person his whole life, and that he was special. And that meant a lot to Leon, because, Leon mentally was not like, he didn't have that killer instinct of Arnold. He was just a nice guy that loved working out. And I don't think he took it that seriously, because if he had, he probably would have been a really good pro.
He could have been. Look at him. I mean, that you're talking about, that's probably from 1970 right there, in the 1970s, that picture. I mean, look at what he looked like. And he didn't really know much about diet. I mean, I remember him asking me, he found a bottle of testosterone at his house. It was expired by like 10 years. You know what I mean? And the bottle, like, it was like bubbling.
I don't think he had a lot of money either. Did he?
No, but you know what? He worked for the Department of Housing. He worked for the Housing Department in New York State.
He probably made decent money.
Yeah, he made good money, but he liked to drink a lot. I mean, you'd see him in the morning, he'd be like, you'd smell that shit.
Yeah, he was a boozer, that's for sure.
It's I mean, he was like that, but he was a great guy. I mean, it's not, you can't say a bad word about Leon Brown. He's phenomenal.
They gave him a pro card because he should have been a pro, but I think they gave him a pro card for winning some kind of over 60 Masters or something like that. Why? Because I remember he was competing like in shows I was competing in the early 90s. I'm like, Leon, aren't you a pro? He's like, well, I never really,
You know what it is? He didn't push them to give the pro card.
No, he could have got it. He
won the Mr. World and shit. He beat fucking Franco Colombo. He beat all those guys. You know what I'm saying? Ed Corney, fucking guy. He beat all these legends. And he just didn't like. They used to tell him, petition the IFBB, get your pro card, because they weren't giving him out like that back then.
Right. He didn't want to do it, and I think at some point, I don't know if it was Steve Weimer. I think someone just said, let's give him a pro card.
Dave, I saw him beat like Tom Twilge, a bunch of guys. He won the intermediate USA. I don't know if you remember that. They had an intermediate, and he was there, and he won. And they go, and the winner is, and he's standing up there like this, and it's in a row with those guys. And he won, I think, the middleweight. And they're like, Leon Brown, like this for the overall. And he just stood there, and they're going, Leon. And the guys just smacking him like this. Leon, you won. You know what I mean? And then he's like, oh, shit. And he went out there. He was just like in his glory. He just loved being up on stage so much. They had to tell him, Leon. And the guy said he was competing against, smacked him like, hey, Leon, you won.
Maybe he was drinking between the pre-judging and the night show. You never know.
Do you know who won the lightweight? Peter Neff.
Oh, that's funny.
Peter Neff won, and he was natural. Peter Neff.
Yeah, I remember. I went to Peter Neff's house. I was in his house.
Oh yeah, I've been in his house too.
Yeah,
Peter Neff was there's another one. We won't get into that one.
Does he still live at home with his parents?
I don't know. No, I think he's married. I haven't talked to him in 30 years.
I haven't heard that name. You're the only other person I know who's ever mentioned that name, Peter Neff. I think you and Chris Cicita.
Well, because he's a Gruskin boy. I was a Gruskin boy. I used to be downstairs naked in Gruskin's basement.
Yeah, everyone was.
Many times.
The funny thing is that he helped me for my first show. Peter. And then, because a friend of mine, Dave Rich, kind of turned me on to him. And I was living right up there, right kind of close to his house. I was a 20-minute ride from his house. And then when I went back to New York, when I went back to Long Island after I kind of left medical school, I was training with Doug Wentz, who was also a Gruskin guy. So it was good because it was, you know, when Doug was helping me get ready, it was the same diet that Peter was using because they both, you know, were Grushkin guys. So that's most of my, you know, and Chris made this point. Most of the coaching techniques that are used by guys today all come from Bob Grushkin. People don't know that. Even the coaches themselves don't know it because they're all passed down from this guy to that guy. I mean, a lot of the information I'm giving people is Gruskin information that I kind of maybe tweaked a little bit, but, you know, and a lot of people, you know, their coaching information came from me. So it's like, it's a trickle down thing. People
Dude, I'd be in that basement. John Natashek just left the house. Vinny Manzo, Vinny Monaco, Jerry Scalisi, all these guys who were great Long Island bodybuilders were always at Gruskin's house.
And it was in the middle of the Bronx.
It was in the middle of the Bronx. And Gruskin lived with his mother. The mother
it was a little tiny house, which is probably when they sold that house when Bob died a couple of years ago, probably worth a fortune now. Those houses in that neighborhood, which was a very Italian neighborhood, were very expensive. Even though they weren't big, it's a desirable place to live because you're close to the subway, you're not too far from Manhattan, and that house was probably worth a lot of money, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, he was big with Super Spectrum vitamins and shit. You remember Super Spectrum?
Yeah, and Musashi, right? Musashi too, didn't he have that?
Yeah. And wait, what was it? I used to take a Formula 90 multi-power. Remember?
That's actually Greg. That's even before my time. I got a news for you.
Formula 90. I might have an old tub laying around here somewhere. It doesn't have the protein in it anymore.
Companies would send Bob stuff because they knew that Bob had all these athletes and they wanted the athletes to use them. And Bob would kind of give them out to people.
They don't realize that Bob was once involved with Weider, and he was like, I think, involved with the Mr. Olympia back in like the 60s. And he would open up his garage door, Dave, and there was a pile of stuff. I mean, he had it in a pile. It was like fucking, all the way to the ceiling. You know what I mean? Of just supplements. It was crazy.
Well, who was the guy that the pharmacy they would go to right there on
Charlie?
Uncle Charlie, right?
Uncle Charlie in a whatchamacallit? In the Bronx, like where the Bronx and
Chris said Bob would walk into the pharmacy and he'd walk out with this huge bag of stuff, and Chris would be like, "Bob, what's in there?" He's like, "Oh, there's a little bit of anabolics," and Chris said it was loaded. It was like loaded to spilling over, and no one thought twice about it because it wasn't a big deal back then.
No, but that guy Charlie too would be like, "Let me see your legs. Pull your pants down." He's a little funky,
Oh, he's the weirdo too.
He wanted to see a Bicha Ligad there, but those. I mean, you can't get back these days, so it's a totally different animal.
What was the first? We got the Olympia in a week. What was the first Olympia you'd ever been to? Do you remember?
I mean, I've seen them. The first one I was at New York. The one when Lee Haney won it in '84.
Oh, you were at that first one?
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
But Sergio Oliva, he was posing. He was shaking because he poses so hard. His muscles were shaking. I was actually rooting for Sergio because, I knew who Lee Haney was from seeing him in the magazine of Muscle Up. Remember Muscle Up, Muscle Bodybuilder, all those different things. Bob Gruskin was actually the publisher of some of that shit. But
I didn't know.
Yeah, assistant publisher, something like that. But he was involved. I don't know if he was involved with it. Like he was the big mucky muck. All his guys were in it. But even Lee Haney, when I was talking to Lee Haney about Bob Gruskin, he was like, "Holy shit, I miss Bob. Oh, he was great." But because Bob was a chemist who taught chemistry at City College. He was a City College professor of chemistry. So he really knew the whole body and was big with Belastro and everything. But the thing is that I remember
84.
Yeah, that's Lee Haney.
That's impressive for 1984.
Oh, absolutely. You know what? It don't do you justice until you see the guys standing next to him. I talked to Sean Ray once, and Sean Ray was telling me, we were talking about Ronnie and Lee, and he said the one thing they both had is once you got, when you got backstage and you saw them, you were like, okay, who's going to play second? You knew that they were going to, especially he had explosive muscle. Bro, when he was at my house, I told him, "Bro, your ass is like this big." He goes, "Stop looking at my ass." We were fooling around. His waist was tiny like this, and his fucking back, and chest. You see that? Look, you don't realize. Look at the structure on him compared to those are not small guys either. Is that Barry DeMay, right?
Yeah, Barry, and then it was the Rich Gaspari.
Yeah, but Haney didn't even finish pulling his lat spread because when he pulled that lat spread all the way, he was wider than everybody.
Yeah.
And he just popped. You know what his Frank Zane had a little bit of that. Frank Zane wasn't huge, but when you saw Frank Zane pose, it just kept going and going and going, and his structure just made it look like, if you look at like the Olympia where Zane, beat like Mike Mentzer, people were like, oh my God, Zane almost looked bigger than Mentzer, and we know that that's not true. His structure was amazing, Frank Zane.
Yeah. There's his wife Shirley.
That's Shirley. I know Shirley. I remember her. That's actually the contest where I met him. I started talking to him after the show.
That's when you invited him to stay with you.
Well, it was a couple years later at 87. He was here in 1980. That's 84.
Right.
But to see him beat, like, remember the current Mr. Olympia back then was Samir Banu. And I thought Samir Banu it was gonna be between Samir Banu and Sergio, because Sergio was the legend already. You know what I mean? And Sergio was big. He was a fucking monster. But when he posed, he couldn't pose right, and the muscles were shaking, and it looked like he was holding water a little bit. But he was a monster, Sergio. Yeah, and that's when he brought little Sergio up on stage. The one that
in the 84. Yeah, you're right. He was 10 that year, right? Wasn't he?
Yes, he was an infant, like a newborn or whatever it was.
Haney had the first guy that had the crazy back. That's what I remember. His back.
His back was Dave. His lats kick, they hung from behind.
I know. No one had that kind of lat mass.
When he would pose, he would suck in that gut and would go in and up. You know what I'm saying? Like
vacuum. He had a good vacuum.
The vacuum was very important. That's what I used to do. That's why if you look at old pictures of me, I had the vacuum going. I would suck it in and up. But you don't see guys like that today. Guys do the double bicep today, and it's kind of pushing their abs out. But when he did that, he kept exploding. His lats would just keep coming out further and further. And like Sean Ray said to me, the guys would be like, holy shit. He was just that fucking good.
And, he was big for back then. He was like 255. I mean,
yes.
The nearest guy to him was probably, 215 or something like that?
Something like that. Yeah. They guys do. And you know what's funny? Again, you guys watching this may say, look at that. Look at, you have no idea. He's not it's between him and Ronnie Coleman, who's the greatest. I think Ronnie might have a beat, but it's close. Right. Let me tell you something. You have no idea until you saw. Look at the back there, the twisting back. Yeah, but you got to remember, guys, tiny waist. Yep. Tiny waist.
31 inches, he told me he was.
Yeah. Yep. I couldn't believe it. He looked like if you stuck a sword in his chest, it would go in 3 feet before it came out his back. That's how big. He was at I couldn't believe his waist. He'd wear little spandex. His ass was like this big.
He had a very perfect structure for bodybuilding.
Perfect.
And I was interviewing Kevin Levrone the other day. I don't know if the interview's been put up yet. I don't know if Sid put it up yet, but
Kevin's my boy. Yeah.
I was explaining something to Kevin, and I said, when I went to his house, and I've told the story a million times now, so I'm not losing my mind, but it's worth repeating. I went to his house, Greg, and he took off his clothes. And when I looked at him, I said, in the back of my head, subconsciously, I don't want to admit it to myself, but I said, I can never beat this guy. I was 300 pounds too, by the way. I realized that bodybuilding wasn't just about muscle mass and conditioning. It was about structure. And you cannot defeat a guy who has got better structure and the muscle and the conditioning. So when you get a guy like Haney, Levrone,
Levrone was amazing.
Dorian, you can't beat. They're unbeatable when they're at their best because their structure propels them over everyone else.
That was Lee. The greatest structure was Lee. It just kept going. Although I got to tell you, Ronnie Coleman in '99 was pretty fucking amazing.
98, 99 was unbelievable.
Ronnie Coleman had a tiny waist.
Yep.
Looked a lot like Lee Haney. It just kept coming. He'd pose and the muscles just kept going. He would get bigger. It just would grow like this. It just keep almost like if you're zooming in on somebody. And that's the way Ron. You guys know that Ronnie Coleman is super jacked. But when he hit it, that 98, 99, he was unbelievable. And
he had it all. He had it all.
Yes, he really did. And those kind of structures, Kevin Levrone, though, I was there. I met Kevin when he lost to Paul DeMeo, because I was with Paul DeMeo and his girlfriend Jill.
Yeah.
Right. And Kevin was there, and me and Bob Bonham were talking with him and everything. Yeah, let's see.
Ronnie is incredible.
Yeah, you know what? Too, they always still don't pick. I mean, Ronnie could pick it up and suck in his gut too, right there.
Look how small
his waist is.
Yeah, he was better. He was better smaller, actually. Yeah.
Yes, He almost had that Victor Martinez, that tiny waist and the V taper.
Yep, with better legs.
Oh, he just unbelievable. But look at how small his waist is.
I know.
Look at that. So you guys watching this, you see the other Ronnie Coleman.
Right.
I was there when he beat Flex Wheeler for the Olympia. We were all there in New York.
Haney made a very good point about Ronnie. You know, Lee Haney retired at 31.
Yes.
Because he started at 24. He started winning Olympias. Ronnie didn't get started till he was like 35 or 34 or something like that. So Ronnie didn't win his first Olympia till 35. So, I mean, you know, your body is not as good when you're older as when you're younger. So I think the early years of Ronnie, he was better. And then he started getting older. And you know what happens? Your waist gets a little more stretched out. You know, it gets a little bigger. Ronnie was growing all over, but his waist was growing too. So I aesthetically speaking, he probably was better in 98, 99, you know.
Well, it's funny because when he first came up and he was placed at 11th and 12th, everybody thought this guy needs more mass, but he's got great lines. He had great lines. He was more of a sleek bodybuilder because he was natural.
He didn't have a back. You can't, you know what? I found out you cannot get a big back without taking steroids. Do you agree with that?
I don't know. I had a pretty big back without taking steroids.
You were short. I'm talking about if you're a big guy, you cannot get those.
Yeah. I would say that. Yeah, I'd say maybe it's hard to fill it out. You're right.
Look at the guys as they get older now that they're not on a lot of shit. Their backs went suck right down.
I could maybe see that. I still got it back on me if you see me, you know, some of the videos. But the thing is, forget me, I'm a Momo. But you know, Lee Haney and Ronnie, it's both. The ironic thing about both of those two guys is they're fucking great guys. A lot of guys in this sport suck, but as human beings. But those two guys are two of the nicest guys. Ronnie Coleman is such an approachable, nice, good man. You know what I mean? And same thing with Lee Haney. Lee Haney's a good man.
Well, you know, I think it's important that, you know, the person that wins Mr. Olympia and represents our sport be someone who's a role model too. I mean, Jay was a role model.
Jay's a good guy.
You know, Ronnie was a role model in his own country way. Lee Haney also, a lot of country wisdom there. You know, religious, really believes in himself. You know, really cares about other people. I mean, you know, a lot of people didn't like Phil, but I think Phil had, for some reason, took on the persona of the bad guy. You know what I mean? The bad boy, you know, and so people, and he played up that persona because it made him money, you know?
Right.
I think after he retired, I think now he's like a different type of person. You know, he's not the same person, but he was a good role model for bodybuilding because he promoted the sport. And Dexter was too, by the way. My problem is with, you know, a lot of some of these guys like Ramy and Hadi, they're great champions, but they really didn't do very much with the Olympia title. Ramy was disappeared pretty much. Hadi, you know, I know he doesn't speak English, so that hurts him a little bit, but he's also not doing anything, at least worldwide. He's promoting it in his country of Iran, but not worldwide. And I think when you become Mr. Olympia, you have almost like a moral obligation to take on the responsibility of promoting the sport in a positive light. And even if that's not your persona, it's almost, you have to do it. You know what I mean? And if you don't, you're really not doing your job as far as I'm concerned as Mr. Olympia.
I agree with you, but you know, some of those guys aren't really likable. But you know, I'm going to be honest with you. Jay Cutler has a good personality too. He's a good guy, but he's got a nice personality. If you talk to Jay, he's kind of witty. You know what I mean? I think, you know, Kevin Lavrone's very good man, very witty.
I'm talking about the Mr. Olympias. And you know what? Dorian, by the way, promoted the sport. He just was very quiet, and you know, but after he retired, he's like a completely different person now. You know, I think he felt like he had to be like this, almost like, you know, the tennis player Bjorn Borg.
Yes,
you know, he was like a machine. People thought he couldn't be beaten. He had no emotions. He showed. That's like Dorian, showed no emotion at all. You know, and it was like this.
He was very intense.
You know,
he was intense. It's what it is.
Yeah. He couldn't take it. He felt like he had to always be on his game, you know, and so, but he was a role model in a sense, and he sold. Think about how many people started doing the heavy duty training, watched that Blood and Guts video. I mean, that was a huge influence on me when I was coming up. I wanted to be Dorian Yates. I wanted to look like him, you know, because he epitomized what you know every bodybuilder wanted to be, which was big, freaky, and shredded, you know, and he figured out a system that worked for him, and no one had really talked about training as much as him. I mean, you saw Lee Haney do workouts, but Lee Haney didn't have a workout system. Whereas Dorian really, got into that whole Mensa,
Right.
low volume, high intensity, and he changed the way people thought about training. And I really believe that's what ushered in that whole 90s era of mass monsters, because guys really focused on training more. When the 2000s came around and Dorian kind of left the scene, yes, Ronnie still trained like an animal, but Ronnie was a freak because Ronnie would do high volume and he would do heavy weights. So no one could do that. So people forgot about that, and they figured, well, Ronnie must be huge because he takes a lot of drugs, which wasn't the case. And I call the 2000s the drug era. That was like where people just thought it was about the drugs. It had nothing to do with training. Oh, yeah. And people forgot about training, really. And really, we're still in an era where training just is not as important as it was back in the 90s.
Right. Guys are more into drugs.
And I think if we can get guys more focused on training again, you're going to see bigger and better physiques.
I think that Ronnie and Lee Haney, and you know what? We got to throw Sergio Oliva in there. I think those were the greatest genetic freaks.
Oh, yeah.
Those guys could pick their nose and eat it, and they would grow. I mean,
Right. But I don't think Sergio was training like Haney trained, or like Ronnie trained.
No, he was a power lifter, Olympic lifter. But the thing is, though, even Arnold said, he thought the greatest genetic freak was Sergio. At one time he said that, that was years ago he said it. But Sergio had a structure. If you look at the mass, he had a small waist. He had that heavy Lee Priest type fucking mass for his physique. You're talking about a guy from the 1960s, though. The 1960s. Look what he looked like when he beat Arnold. And he had the mass of the guys today, minus the wide waist. The wide, ripped, fucking bloated gut waist. He had the mass. I mean, he had fucking 22, 23-inch arms in the 60s, and they weren't fat. You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah.
And
I don't think he really knew what he was doing. Do you?
Well, that's what I'm saying. He's a genetic freak. Look at the waist on it. That's it. Guys, you're looking at a guy in the 1960s and early 70s. Look at that. Look at the structure. Look at that 29-inch waist, they said.
Yeah.
He didn't even know how to pose right, but look at that. Pick a flaw with that. Aside from he's not dry hard. Okay, but who was dry hard back then? Nobody.
No.
But pick a flaw with that. Look at that fucking guy. Look at that structure.
Right.
V-taper to the waist. Not up there high.
Arnold should have been able to beat him, but Arnold was just smarter than him, is really what it amounted to.
Well, that's what it was. Arnold took it serious. Arnold knew how to. Arnold had charisma. He just got up there like that. But look at that shit. Now that's Sergio older. That's like what he looked like when
old. Yeah, you're right.
He was old. But look at that. That's him young in the 1960s.
Look at that chest, Greg.
But Dave, hold that for a second. Look at the arms, the chest, the delts, small waist. You tell me that's the mass of today, of guys today. Okay?
He had legs too.
Look at the legs. Who the fuck had legs in the 1960s? Guys were standing there holding the pole using that leg shoe and shit.
And you know what? People told me that Sergio probably only ate like two meals a day, and it was like garbage food he would eat.
Well, first he worked in a steel mill, then he became a police officer.
But he
worked a regular job.
I don't know who was telling me. Someone was telling me that he would go in. They would go in to see where he worked, and they had like a cafeteria, and he'd be eating like donuts and like just garbage food. And
I believe it. He was Arnold said the greatest genetic freak he's ever witnessed. Who had thighs? Those are thighs from today. That's the 1960s, guys. There's no trend. There's no growth hormone. There's none of that shit in those thighs. Yeah. That's today.
Sergio, he probably popped a few deep balls every day. That was probably all he took.
That's it. He didn't. Right. He was like kind of like Ronnie loved to train.
Right.
But Ronnie was like happy-go-lucky. You know what I mean? He didn't give a shit. Go to the gym. It doesn't matter. Robbie Duran was telling me a story about how Ronnie was squatting. And, he had spotters and he had, I don't know, like 800 pounds on a bar. All of a sudden he goes, holy shit. He put the bar down. He said, I heard a gunshot. And it wasn't a gunshot. It was his hamstring snapped. You know what I mean?
No way. Really?
He tore a hamstring. He didn't even know.
Wow.
At first. I mean, when it happened. Because you hear that pop in your brain. Yeah. And he thought it was a gunshot. I'm just saying, these guys, for the love of the game, do you understand? They just love. I love training. I still fucking. I'll do fucking 80 sets for a body part and shit. Not for legs though. But for the love of the game. You know what I'm saying? I don't think they even cared about competing. It was just to train for the love I mean, you know, Ronnie will go in a wheelchair to the gym. He doesn't care.
Right.
He loves to train.
Right. No,
You know?
you're right. And you know what? The people who love what they do are always the most successful at what they do, because it's not really work. Yes, it's hard work in the sense that you have to go and do the thing. But if you enjoy what you're doing, you're really not. You don't even realize you're working. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like a labor of love, and you know, if you can get paid for it, great. You know, and that's why I'm a big advocate. You know, I think bodybuilding is really the last sport where the guys are severely underpaid for the elite level. You know, Mr. Olympia level. There's no reason why the Mr. Olympia champ is not winning over $1 million for first place. I mean,
more than that. By the time he's done food prep, drugs, fucking this, that, the other thing, he's not walking away with a lot.
He's putting his life on the line, just like all athletes in all sports, boxing, MMA, football. I mean, you could die in any of those sports, you know. And you know what? Bodybuilding is the same. Just because you're not banging into anyone, you know, you're putting, you know, 500 pounds over your head on a bench press. I mean, you could die doing that. And so I think the bodybuilders, the pay has to go up. It's just not, it hasn't moved enough, and it hasn't moved fast enough. And the only way that's going to happen, and I know I sound like a broken record to everyone out there, but it's got to move to the Middle East. We got to take these major championships and take them to the Middle East, where the oil sheiks there appreciate bodybuilding. They'll put up that kind of money and let these guys get paid for what they're doing. There's no reason why a guy should have to have a regular job and be Mr. Olympia. You know, it's nuts. It's nuts. What other sport do the pro athletes actually have to work a side job, you know, while they're doing their sport?
They should have a union, and there should be some sort of benefit package, because I'm going to tell you something. Like when Victor Martinez blew out his knee or something, you know, they have to pay for that. They have to go get the surgery.
But Greg, you know what? If they made a couple $1 million a year, I'm talking about the top guys, they can buy their own health insurance. It doesn't matter. They'll have money. People don't have health insurance. You know why? Because they don't want to spend the money, because they're using the money on steroids and food and, you know, whatever else they need to pay rent and, you know, and cell phones. So, you know, if a guy's not making enough money, you know, I remember Kai Green, you know, we were trying to get in touch with him. I was working for Blackman at the time, and he was getting ready for, I think, for some big show. It might've been the Arnold. And I couldn't get in touch with the guy. I'm like, he's not answering his phone. We find out the phone was turned off because he didn't pay the bill.
Yeah.
And he's like, look, I got to buy tilapia in the store. I couldn't afford to pay my phone bill. That's not a priority. And I understood what he was talking, where he was coming from. He didn't have any money, you know?
No, the Chicago wasn't there. But you know what's funny is that, you know what I liked as a young bodybuilder? You know what I loved about bodybuilding? When I would go to the shows, all the bodybuilders would leave the same way you do. So you'd see them coming off, you know what I mean? They'd be out in the audience like, oh, shit, there's Sergio Oliva. Oh, shit. That's how I met, you know, Haney for the first time. Was he came off the stage. He was talking to people. I came over to him. We shook hands. We talked a little bit, you know. And his wife, Shirley, was there, you know. And it was just it was like, you know, here you are. It's not like you go to the Super Bowl and you meet all the guys, or go to the Yankee game and you meet all the Yankees. You know what I mean?
Well, you know, if the bodybuilders were making a couple $1 million each for the Olympia, you wouldn't be seeing them in the audience either.
Absolutely not.
They'd be going into their limousine waiting outside for them. You know what I mean?
I remember I ran to see Danny Padilla like in 1979. I was at every one of the Night of Champions. Yeah. And I ran to see him, and I smashed into Harold Poole, and he was like nasty. He wanted to kick my ass and shit.
Oh, really?
I was
Danny Padilla was working in a grocery store.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, he was. Holy shit, up in Rochester.
That was his job. And he would just bodybuild on, you know, on the weekend type of thing, you know. And
but they also didn't take steroids all year long either. If you saw, listen, guys, when you watch Pump and Iron, right? You see Arnold and he walks in a gym and it's 100 days or whatever left to the Mr. Olympia, or 99 days, whatever the fuck it was, right? He was like, I wanted to start training, get a little bit of muscle. He didn't look anything like he did 3 months later, because they would go on cycles for 4 months. Then, you know, am I right or wrong, Dave?
No, you're 100% right. I'm pulling up a picture of Danny Padilla just so people can see what we're
I loved him not for nothing. But imagine if you could like made him tall. Look at his structure. Look at those legs, calves. You know what I'm saying? He had some structure.
And he probably didn't take a lot of drugs. There's no way.
No, he did he talks about that. He did 4 months out of the year, like for a show, like almost like contest prep starts. Right. That's when you start taking the drugs. Wow. They didn't do that all year round.
He's not, I mean, he's not that big. He just looks big
he's
because
like 5'2".
he was put together so well, you know.
He's like 5'2", but look at his structure though. He had like a little mini Arnold build back then, if you remember correctly.
Yeah,
and like,
he was good.
That's not even a good picture of his double bicep because he had some lats on him. You know what I mean? He was known for lats too. Yeah, he had some big lats, you know.
For a small guy, you know, he had a lot of muscle. You know?
But you're looking at a guy, I think he weighed like fucking literally 170 or something. Like, he didn't weigh much.
No, yeah. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, he was really short though. That's why.
Yeah, he's short, but still, you know. I mean, these guys today, his height would be fucking forget about it. Look at our boy Alessandro. You know, Alessandro Salve. I love him to death. He's got to be the biggest guy on the planet for his size.
Yeah.
He's 5'1". The fucking guy was like 255. He's jacked.
Nice.
When I was with Leon,
super nice guy too. Super nice.
I introduced Leon to him, and Leon said he never saw legs that big in his life. and Leon was around everybody. He was at all the shows. Alessandro's a monster. He's got the. Not only does he have a big heart, obviously he's with Rosetta, who's a great girl, my girl. But Alessandro's got a big heart, but what a body on that kid. Man, has he got some builds.
Alessandro and Rosetta hooked us up. They were working for Yamamoto when Yamamoto first started.
I remember, wasn't that long ago.
And they hooked us up, and Yamamoto brought us out, RXMuscle out to Italy. And they flew us out there. They put us up, you know. They were there too. We went out to eat with them, and we filmed, and we did a tour of the factory there, and I had such a good time. It was, I had never been to Italy. That was the first time I had ever gone, and I had such a good experience. They took us for dinner at a place where they make everything from scratch. It was unbelievable, and of course they knew everyone there. So it was amazing. And so
Rosetta's a national treasure.
They're very good friends. They're very good.
Rosetta's my girl. She's the bet. That girl, she's another one. She's got the heart. I mean, she can't do enough for you. She was once with Derek Anthony.
I know. That's how I know her.
Yes. And but she's a great girl. Alessandro, her boy, they're two great people. Not for nothing. Yeah. He is absolutely, his physique is monstrous. He's got pound for pound. I think he's the biggest man on the planet. I think he's so. Man, if he was 6 foot tall, he would be shit. He'd be 400 pounds ripped. I mean, he's a monster. Yeah. And I mean that with love in a good way. He's a phenomenal guy. Yeah. He's a good man too, and so is Rosetta. Good girl.
I'm laughing because my son now is like into this whole his, he loves the cell phone, right?
So he's texting you while you're doing a show.
No, yeah, he's beyond that already. He's into FaceTiming, and he has a list of all the people that he knows. So he FaceTimes everyone in one shot, like people that he shouldn't be FaceTiming. And he'll do it. It doesn't matter what time of day or night it is. He'll just he'll FaceTime anyone that who's on the list of the address book.
That's okay. He's young. Enjoy him now, because when they get to be teenagers and they get rotten and they're shut up, you're embarrassing. Leave me alone. Your wife will go to give him a kiss. She'll push him away. Get away. You know what I mean?
He's already like that. He's already.
That's when you're like, I missed him.
I got my daughters. My daughters, they love daddy. So
yeah. Well, daddy's girl, mommy's boy.
Yeah, right.
It's always the way it is.
Yeah.
But they start pushing you away. Oh my God, don't come near me. Oh my God. Like you walk up to them, they're in the mall with their friends or something. Like, get away from me. I don't know him. Get away. You know what I mean?
You know what? It's funny because he's like that. And then someone will come up to me and they'll say, oh, I watch RXMuscle. I love it. It's great stuff. Blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden he shuts up a little bit because then he's like, he thinks he's a big shot. And then
then he runs over to you and stands up
picture
against
with me,
you.
and he has to jump in the picture too.
Yeah. I know. That's great.
Funny.
Enjoy them now while they're young.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll be out at the Olympia next Thursday. I drive there. It's only 2.5 hours to Orlando, and we'll have the whole RXMuscle crew there covering the show. And I haven't been to the Olympia, Greg, since 2018 was my last Olympia.
Wow.
And I used to go every single year. I didn't miss, for 20 years straight. I went,
I used to go to all those too. Never missed a night at Champions or New York Pro. Now I don't go to any of that stuff. You changes, times change. And I blame it on technology because you don't need to go to a show. You can watch it live stream now if you really want to. I mean,
I don't have to go to the Olympia. I can almost cover the Olympia better from the live stream because I'm sitting in the comfort of my house. But there's something about being at the Olympia energy-wise and what you see. And I know my good friend Dan Solomon got us very good seats and press credentials and all that stuff. So I want to thank him for that. But obviously MuscleTech is sponsoring our coverage. So we're gonna go there and we're gonna do a really good job. And I know people appreciate when we do live coverage at the show. And so that's my little give back to the public. But I really did enjoy covering it the last couple of years from my house. But I miss all the people. I've been hung out with Chris Aceto and all those guys.
That's the only reason why I would ever go to another show. Is for the people. Fuck the show. I'd rather walk around and meet all the people and see people I haven't seen in years. By the way,
these days everyone's begging me to have an RXMuscle booth at the Olympia one of these years. Maybe one of these years we'll do it if it's in Orlando again next year. Maybe we'll get a booth. And I'll put the Smalley brothers there, and you and Jimmy, and
Lee.
Lee. We'll sell hot dogs or something like that.
Well, you mix us with the Smalley brothers. We were going nuts back years ago. Me and forget George. Bobby was crazy. I love Bobby Small. But I just want to say, if Dan Solomon's watching this, Dan, I would love to know what your opinion would be. Who would you rather see? The Baltimore Orioles win by the way, I was rooting for them, Dan. I was rooting for them.
Are you really? I didn't know you were an Orioles.
By the way, Dan Solomon is a huge Baltimore Oriole baseball fan. Yeah. Okay. So Dan, I'm a little upset too. I'm a huge Yankee fan. They're in our division, but I like the young Baltimore Orioles, by the way, Dan. I know that that's killing Dan. I think he would rather see them win that than go to the Olympia. That's how much he loves the Baltimore Orioles. So that's my question. Dan, if you're watching this, what would you rather do? Go to sit out this Olympia or see the Baltimore Orioles win that World Series?
He's got
a son. So I knew his son would rather see the Baltimore Orioles.
I didn't know that Dan was a Baltimore Orioles fan.
Yeah, we used to talk about that, Dan and I. He's a big baseball guy, too.
Greg, where I live, it's Boston Red Sox territory.
Oh. That's my son.
I'm a Yankee fan like you are. So I'm like a big Yankee fan. I grew up, my father, we used to go to Fort Lauderdale. We watched the spring training with the Yankees.
Right.
Well, in Fort Myers, they have JetBlue Park, they actually call it Fenway South. That's where the Boston Red Sox do their spring training. And so it's Boston Red Sox. Everything is Boston Red Sox down here. And I can't take it because it's in the Yankees are in my bloodstream. It's like my father grew up in the Bronx. I mean, and it drives me nuts. Everyone's like, "Oh, you want to go see the Red Sox?" I'm like, "I don't want to see the Red Sox. No, I don't want to."
Dave, I used to take my son when he was a little boy. We were at the Perfect Game with David Cohn.
Oh, you are? Wow.
Yeah, he used to have. I got him a shirt that said "The Red Sox suck," right? Boston sucks. And he was 9 years old, right? So I would take pictures of that. He was like, "Yeah, fuck the Red Sox." Now, all of a sudden, he's in the Army, right?
Yeah.
When he was in the Army, he was Army intelligence. And all of a sudden, I get this text message, and I see it's a big calf. My son's got calves like fucking Lee Priest. They're huge.
Oh, really?
And you guys, if you ever saw Lee Priest in person, his calves are ridiculous. They're huge.
Yeah.
So my son's got these. My son's is a myostatin fucking. He's got shoulder. He's like Big Rammy.
He's like you.
Oh no, he's way better. He gets it from his mother's side because her mother was an acrobat. Was a trapeze artist in the Hamburg Circus. But anyway, he's got all of a sudden I get this fucking photo of this giant calf with a fucking tattoo with a Red Sox on it.
Oh my God.
I'm like, I text him back. I said, "Who the fuck is this? Well, whose calf is that?" And he goes, "It's mine." And I said, "Wait a minute, you're a Yankee fan, bro." He goes, "Not no more, bro. This is like back when Obama was president."
That's crazy.
My son, I said, "Dude, you're intelligence. That's like unintelligent." You know what I mean? And he's that. I don't know.
He's a Red Sox fan. He had a tattoo of it on.
He has a tattoo of the Red Sox. He goes to Fenway when he's NSA intelligent. He goes to Fenway Park.
Does he live up there?
No, right now he's in Albany, but he goes all over. Yeah, he goes up to Fenway, which is not far. It's like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours.
Yeah.
He'll go to Fenway Park. He goes to see all the Red Sox. He'll text me, "You guys suck." I'm like, "You guys," you know what I mean? Like,
Wow.
Dude, you would freak if you met my son. First, unfortunately, he looks like me, but he's taller, Yeah,
I picture him. He's a good-looking kid. It's funny, but I had this Yankee hat I used to wear in college, and I went to visit one of my friends went to Brandeis University up in Boston, and he was living right outside Fenway Park. He had an apartment, a little shitty one-bedroom apartment, and I drove up. we were still in college. I think I had just graduated. I might have been in medical school at this time. So I was in Westchester. I drove up to hang out with him for the weekend, and I had the Yankee hat on. And I don't usually wear hats, but for some reason I was. And I was walking. I didn't realize he was right next to Fenway Park. And I'm looking, and everyone's staring at me like I'm like trying to start trouble. And I'm wearing the Yankee hat, and I kind of snuck it off and shoved it into my pocket. I thought I was going to get killed. I thought they were going to kill me.
They would kick your ass up there. They don't get, they're worse than the Yankees. Listen, my son says to me, "Oh, the Yankees knocked down Yankee Stadium and moved it, what, fucking 10 feet over to across the street." He goes, "Do you think Red Sox would ever take down Fenway? Boston would never allow it. There'd be people outside there. Forget about it. They would kill the ownership.
There's nowhere to move it. That's the problem.
They're actually more loyal fans than Yankee fans. You know what I'm saying? They're like crazy. They'll kill you for Boston. You can walk with a Boston Red Sox hat down the Bronx. Nobody gives a shit. You know what I mean?
No.
You know. But if you wore a Yankee hat around that area, forget about it.
There was guys looking at me like they wanted to murder me, and I actually got nervous, and I went up to his apartment. I'm like, I said, I think these guys wanted to beat me up for wearing this Yankee hat. They're like, oh, he's like, oh, they would have. You know, they wouldn't have thought twice about it. I said, thank God I got the hat off. So,
do you know who used to break my balls about the Red Sox Yankee shit? Who? And he was so upset when the Yankees beat them in that, in 2003, and they went on to the Anthony DeRezzo.
Oh yeah, he was a big Red Sox fan.
Big Red Sox fan. He told me, "Let me tell you something. You guys won, but you shouldn't have won that game." And everything. I had to hear that shit.
You know who was a big Yankee fan? Johnny Moya. You remember Johnny Moya?
Yeah, Johnny Moya. Okay, I remember that guy. Yeah.
Johnny won the Nationals in '96. I helped him. He was a middleweight, and it was when the Mets and the Yankees were playing in the World Series together. Remember that?
Yes.
Yankee versus Mets, and the Yankees won, and he was so happy. He almost was more happy that the Yankees beat the Mets than he was that he won the Nationals,
Well, let me tell you, the reason why is because you have to understand the Yankees, the Mets are like their little brother. That's like your little brother kicking your ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're New York's supposed to be Yankees, even though I never root against New York. So if you take the Yankees out of it, I'm Met all the way.
My father watched both. My father was a Yankee.
Me too.
Yeah. So we didn't care, who won really, but the real diehard Yankee fans don't like the Mets. Yeah, they don't like them.
Well, when the Yankees play the Mets, I'm rooting. I'm like, I'm like psycho because I want Yankees all the way. But it's just fucking crazy that how the Boston people. DeRezzo was so upset. He's like, you have to admit, you have to tell me. There's no way if that fucking they were mad because Grady Little, the manager of the Red Sox, left what's his name in too long and all this. Pedro. They were like, you have to admit that. Yeah, that's why you guys didn't beat us. We beat ourselves.
The Boston fans are serious about their athletics. Yeah, the Celtics fans are just as crazy. I get news for you.
Yeah, they're Boston Bruins. What about that? They're fucking hockey. Yeah. Forget about that.
Anyway, well, I want to before we wrap up, I want to just tell everyone who's ever heading out to the Olympia, I'll be there if you want to hook up. If you see me, come up to me. What a lot of people don't realize, Greg, is when I do go to these shows, I'm like in such a daze of focused on trying to get all the content we get done that I could walk past someone that I know is my best friend. I wouldn't even see them. So if you guys see me and you want to come up, say hello, let's take a picture. Don't be insulted if I don't see you, because there's too much going on there and I can't focus on it. And that's the God honest truth. Next year, we'll try to get the whole whack pack out to the Olympia. We'll see if we can make it happen. I promise you guys, at least I'll try. I'll make an attempt for it.
That's crazy. You're going to have a good time, though, because you haven't been there. So now you're going to be like a kid in a candy shop.
I know.
When you're there every year, it's like, shit,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
when you get your hotel room.
I'm glad I took a few years off because now I appreciate it more. I missed it a little bit. I'm looking forward to going there.
Are you commuting back or are you getting a hotel?
No, I have a hotel there, but I'm going to drive up on Thursday morning. I'll go to the press conference Thursday afternoon, and then meet the Olympians is a Thursday night. Friday is the men's prejudging at night, and then on Saturday is the night show. So the weekend goes so fast, and you know what? I try to arrange meetings with people, and nothing ever happens because there's too much going on at those shows. You try to do everything and be everything to everyone, and you can't do it. So like I said, if you see me, come up, take a picture with me. We'll have a smile, we'll have a laugh, and I appreciate all the fans and all the people who support us. So,
what about Hattie? Is Hattie going to be able to get here without with all the shit that's going on?
I know, crazy. Crazy.
Is he? Do you think? Because he's Iranian, you know. Mr. Olympia.
Hadi Shubin will be there, but there's a couple other guys they couldn't get into. Nathan the Escher couldn't get into the country and he came from UK. And then there's another guy, Bayruz Tabani. He's from Iran. He's trying to get in through some backdoor country. I don't know. It's if you're a professional athlete, you should be given a visa.
100%.
There should be no questions asked, and that's the end of the story. I mean, professional athletes should be immune from having to try to apply for visas and all that BS.
I agree. They do that even with the big sports. You know, that sometimes a baseball player can't go to Toronto or something. It's ridiculous.
It's the dumbest thing of all time. It's the dumbest.
Yeah, really. Like they're going to be a terrorist. You already know who they are. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's not like.
Thank you, Greg, for holding down the fort for Lee Priest and John Romano today on Iron Rage.
Lee Priest, your friend.
Yeah. I don't know what, Lee is the most prompt, him. He never misses anything. Hopefully he's not sick or something like that, because I'm shocked that we haven't heard from him.
Either. I'm going to call him. I'll see. But
John Romano, as soon as I end the show, Romano will call me. I got internet finally. You guys still going?
Where is he?
He's at home, but for some reason they were doing road work on outside his house, and they must have clipped the internet line. Or something
shit!
Like that, so.
Tell him that's what he gets for living in the boondocks.
That's it, living in South Carolina, exactly. For now, we're wrapping up this show. Thanks for joining us. Next time you'll see us, we'll be reporting live from the Olympia. I'm Dave Palumbo with Gregg Valentino. We'll see you next time.
Stop fucking around.